St. Augustine, Florida, a place known for its history and beauty. But on January 23rd, 1974, it was witness to a murder so violent, it would linger over the city for decades.
This is Marine Street, just south of St. Augustine's historic district. In 1974, this was one of the most desirable streets in the city, and still is. And right here, in the early evening, a woman was murdered on her front steps. Her name was Athalia Ponsell Lindsley.
Athalia's life didn't begin in St. Augustine. She was born into a wealthy family in 1917. As a child, she lived in Cuba before her family relocated to Jacksonville, Florida. By her late teens, after a brief failed marriage, she moved to New York City, where she became a professional model and signed with a major agency. Apparently, she was a knockout beauty. She dated powerful men, including Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., and moved through the upper echelons of society. But that didn't last. By her 30s, her modeling career had faded. She returned to Jacksonville, remarried, divorced again, and began rebuilding a life, working in real estate, writing, and even attempting a run for public office. Athalia was intelligent, outspoken, and highly opinionated, a combination that would define her final years.
When Athalia moved to St. Augustine in 1972 with her mother, she was stepping into a very different kind of social world. This was a small, tightly connected city with its own way of doing things, and she was seen as an interloper.
Athalia quickly developed a reputation. She was confrontational. She spoke her mind. She challenged people publicly. Her neighbors complained about her barking dogs. Arguments escalated, legal disputes followed, and over time, those tensions became personal. In 1973, Athalia married James "Jinx" Lindsley. He was the former mayor of St. Augustine, well-known, well-connected. But their marriage raised questions. Even after getting married, they continued living separately.
That arrangement becomes important when you look at what happened next and what he may have had to gain.
At the time of her death, Athalia's estate was considerable. She owned the home, she had assets and personal property. But in her will, she left everything to her sister, not her husband. After her death, James Lindsley went to court and successfully claimed 1/3 of the estate. There were also reports of tension in the marriage. Letters Athalia wrote to her sister described Lindsley as a liar and a leech. She even changed the locks on the house and did not give him a key. This suggests the relationship was already breaking down, just months after the wedding. At the same time, Athalia was locked in a contentious public feud with her neighbor, county manager Alan Stanford, that started with her barking dogs. She accused him of incompetence, challenged his qualifications. She filed complaints with state authorities. She spoke out at public meetings. And she claimed that he had even threatened her in her driveway, saying, "You're a vicious and evil woman, and one day I'm gonna fix you."
The day before the murder, she was still actively pursuing that fight.
January 23rd, 1974. Athalia spends the day in Jacksonville with her husband. They return separately. She arrives home at 5:35 p.m. She brings groceries inside, then goes back out to check the mail. On her way back from the mailbox, she is attacked.
Right here, on those steps.
The attack is brutal. She was hacked to death by a machete, nearly decapitating her. The level of violence leads investigators to one conclusion. This was personal. A teenage neighbor hears sounds, looks outside, and sees a man striking Athalia. He later tells his family, "Mr. Stanford is hitting her."
That identification would not hold up in court.
The investigation quickly focused on two men: Alan Stanford, the neighbor she was actively targeting, and James Lindsley, the husband. Stanford's connection grew stronger when a watch traced back to him, along with clothing and a machete, were found nearby. But the evidence was not clean. Water had damaged it. Chain of custody was questioned, and the defense would later argue it may have been planted. Lindsley had an alibi supported by multiple sightings, though there was a short gap in his timeline. Stanford claimed he was at work, though early statements from his family raised doubts. Both men had access to machetes. Both had potential motives.
But motive and proof are not the same thing.
Alan Stanford was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The prosecution presented the feud, the physical evidence, the witness. But the defense weakened the case. The eyewitness could no longer confidently identify Stanford. An alternative suspect was suggested, and doubts about the evidence continued to grow. After just 2.5 hours, the jury returned a verdict: not guilty.
And with that, the case effectively ended. No one else was charged, and no new investigation followed.
Her murder remains unsolved. The two men most closely tied to the case are both gone, and with them, any chance of a definitive answer.
Was it a neighbor pushed too far? A husband with something to gain? Or retribution for being outspoken and disagreeing with how things are done in a small southern town? What do you think happened here? Let me know in the comments below. For more St. Augustine history and local content, don't forget to like and subscribe.